Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you might be, and welcome to another Zoom event with Harif. For those who don't know us, Harif is the UK Association of Jews from the Middle East and North Africa, and our mission is to raise awareness of the history and culture of these Jews. And I may say that this particular issue, this particular subject, I think is more topical than ever in view of the events in Israel. For those of you joining from Israel, our thoughts and prayers go out to you. This is a very difficult time for all Jewish. Oh, they've just had a rocket alert in Tel Aviv. So, our thoughts and prayers go out to you wherever you might be. It's a difficult time for all of us. And we just hope for the best and pray for good news. Our website is www.harif.org. You don't have to be a Jew from the Middle East and North Africa to be interested in what we do, but we do ask you to subscribe to our mailing list in order to get details of our future events. We also have a sister website, Point of No Return, which is a news blog, been working very hard to cover the news, the current news with the war, from the perspective of Jews from Arab and Muslim countries. This session is being live streamed to the Harif Facebook page, and you will be able to ask questions if you just type them on the Harif Facebook page. And there'll also be a recording on the Harif video channel. It'll be up very soon as we can get our act together. If you'd like to ask our speaker a question, please do type it in the chat box at the bottom of your screen. And after he's finished his presentation, there will be an opportunity to ask questions. So without further ado, let's talk about tonight's subject, which is called A Forgotten Exodus, and that is the title of a new film. Now, the month of November is Mizrahi Heritage Month, and it culminates in the commemoration of the exodus of Jews from Arab countries and Iran. The Israeli Knesset passed a law in 2014 designating the 30th of November as the date to commemorate this event or these events annually. And we at Harif will be organizing our own commemoration in London, which you will be able to follow if you're not with us in London. So we're really thrilled to be interviewing Dutch author and filmmaker Marcel Prins tonight. This year, he completed a two-part documentary on the flight of Jews from the Arab world. It's called A Forgotten Exodus. And the film has been shown on Dutch national television. As well as being a filmmaker, Marcel Prins is the author of several books about Jewish children in World War II. And he's also involved in an online project called Hidden, which is about these children who were in hiding in Holland. And he lives in Utrecht in the Netherlands. And we are absolutely delighted to have him join us tonight. Thank you very much, Marcel.
Thank
you,
you,
will
Lynn.
be telling us about his film and showing extracts from it. So over to you, Marcel.
Well, thank you, Lynn. It's an honor to be on your show, and I first also want to express my sympathy for everyone in Israel and people that are connected to Israel. in these horrific times. It must be extremely difficult. It's already difficult for me, but it must be far more difficult for all these people in Israel. And I agree. I think the story of the Mizrahi Jews is, it's a very important subject, and especially now because especially in Holland where I live, there is very little to almost no knowledge about the history, or at least the demographic history of Israel. There is a persistent, I think, narrative that Israelis are mainly white people that came from Europe to Palestine and created a state, which of course there are some parts of that which are also true. But the idea or the fact that the population doubled within a few years after its creation with the influx of refugees from Middle Eastern and North African countries is actually completely unknown. And even before the creation of the State of Israel, there was influx of Mizrahim. And I think it's a very important part of the story that should be told. There's another persistent, I think, narrative. The idea that Muslims and Jews lived in harmony with each other everywhere in the Muslim world before the State of Israel was created. But like one of my interviewees said, Raphael Israeli, a professor from Jerusalem, it's like the harmony a bit between the horse and its rider. One is always on top. And I thought it was a very interesting metaphor, because like he said, there were a lot of periods where Muslims and Jews maybe coexisted in a quite okay way, but there was always have been periods of persecution. I am not a scholar on the subject at all. I'm not a historian. I'm a filmmaker, and I'm interested in personal stories of people. So that is what I've been doing. I've been collecting the personal stories of people that have experienced from different perspectives the history, and that have come from these countries to Israel. Of course, also people, Mizrahi went to other places, but for me, it was about Israel. And maybe to sort of shape the context or give the context of this film, it's an idea to show you the beginning of the film. And the first person I interviewed for the film, or not in time, but the first person in the film that appears in the film, Raphael Israeli, who I just mentioned. And maybe it's an idea to just show you the beginning and the first part of the film, and it will give you an idea of how the film has been constructed. So what I will do is I will share my screen with you, and I will show you the beginning of the film, and then we'll continue, I hope, with another question of Lynn. But I will start sharing my screen now, and I hope this all goes flawless. I'll do my best.
I'm sure it will be.
Let's see. So I want to share this screen, and then share. Right.
In het begin van de 20e eeuw wonen er ongeveer 1 miljoen Joden in het Midden-Oosten en Noord-Afrika. De Joden in de islamitische wereld worden regelmatig vervolgd en hebben niet dezelfde rechten als hun islamitische landgenoten. Hun toch al precaire positie verslechtert na 29 november 1947. De Verenigde Naties stemmen op die dag voor de verdeling van Palestina in een Palestijnse en een Joodse staat. Er breekt protest en geweld uit tegen Joden in de islamitische wereld. Een half jaar later wordt de staat Israël uitgeroepen. De omringende Arabische landen verklaren Israël de oorlog en vallen aan. In al die omringende landen, maar ook in Noord-Afrika, nemen de gewelddadigheden tegen de Joden die daar wonen sterk toe. Er volgen vele oorlogen. En bij iedere oorlog vluchten er meer Joden naar Israël om aan vervolging te ontkomen. Eind jaren 70 van de 20e eeuw zijn bijna alle Joden uit de islamitische wereld gevlucht. de meeste naar Israël. Dit is een aantal van hun verhalen.
Well, I left Morocco at the age of 13, so I have some clear memories. My father had two grocery stores, one in the French part of the city, which was the modern European part of the city, and one of them closer to the Mellah. Mellah, that's the Jewish ghetto. We lived in that Mellah. It was very crowded, to put it mildly, not very hygienic, and although the death rate, because of the conditions, was very high. My memory since I was a very young kid is that I grew up in fear. Fear is perhaps a mild word because it was terror, horror, whatever harsh word you want to say. Because I saw my grandfather who had a shop in the Muslim area, and very often I saw him coming back bleeding because he was beaten, rocks was thrown on him, either in his store or in his way to or from his store. You know, I felt very often that I was living in the bottom of a deep pier or well, and from the bottom of that well, I could see a small piece of heaven, of sky, and I thought that's the entire universe. We didn't know anything else. With the energy of my youth, I wanted to go out of the well.
Right. Yes. Thank you. Well, that was a very interesting introduction to the film, and casts light on the way Jews were treated in Muslim countries before the creation of Israel. My first question was going to be, what made you make this film? You partially answered it, but what I really want to know is how you personally came to this subject. What interested you about it? How did you find out about it?
Well, actually, it's just my personal interest in the history of Israel. And of course, as you can see, I'm not a Mizrahi Jew. I'm just a Jew from Holland. And I made other films about Israel, about the history of Israel, and also in connection with the relations to Holland. I made a film about Tel Aviv, about the architecture. And my main motivation was to make this film is that I all the time, here in Holland, when there is a discussion about Israel and about the rights of the Palestinians and blah blah blah, the whole history about the Mizrahi Jews is not part of that discussion, and I thought that was strange, and it struck me that actually nobody knew about this history, and not even only like people that know nothing about Jewish history, about the history of Israel, but also even Israelis sometimes, and other Jewish people, especially here in Holland, had no. I mean, I showed this film to a good acquaintance of mine who has lived in Israel herself for a few years, and she said, I didn't know all this. So I thought it's an under, what do you say, a history with too little exposure. I think that is my personal motivation. So I just started investigating what I could about the history and started reading books. Of course, I read your book, of course, Lynn.
Thank you.
I read all the books, and then I realized I wanted to make a film about it. And of course, there are other films about this subject. Not very many, though, I think.
Yeah.
But
No,
when
I
was
know of
doing this-
two, actually. The Silent Exodus by Pierre Rehov and The
Yes.
Forgotten Refugees by the David Project.
Yes,
Yes.
I read about that, and I saw some of it, and I also saw a film called Remembering Baghdad
Yeah.
recently. But that was already when I was working on this film. But still, I think there's very little compared to what what there is on general history. Then of course I started thinking on how to do this or what the form could be. And this is not extremely different from other films in the sense that it has archive material and personal accounts of people. But I do think one thing is very different, and that is the use of animation. And although there's not a lot of it in it, and it's not very extensive, but it gives a completely different flavor to the whole perception of the film, I think.
Yes.
And also, it's always a child's perspective what you get, and it's very difficult, of course, to film that in the presence, and it is also almost impossible to film the places where they are talking about. I mean, going to Fez would be possible, but going to Sana'a, for instance, or Baghdad, or Yemen, or Aden is very difficult, and sometimes even, and in some cases, dangerous. So. And what you will see there, the landscapes will have changed, everything will have changed. So it wouldn't have anything to do with what was going on in the minds of the people that told me their story. So for me, it was important to combine these different layers, like the personal interview, the archive material, and the animated sequences. So I think that is that makes it a little different from other films, and also the fact that the way it's filmed with people, you have the feeling that they're addressing you directly because they look directly into the camera. It's a form thing, of course, but I think for this film, it works very well, actually.
Yes, I think it works very well. Having seen the film myself, it certainly brings the experiences alive. But how did you go about choosing the interviewees? Because there are 8 of them, aren't there?
Yeah, there are 8. There are 8. And well, there were some subjects that I really wanted to touch on, some historical, events like the Farhud, for instance, and of course the effects of the 6-day war in all actually the Middle Eastern and North African countries. But so these were a few things that I really wanted, and then of course I started looking for people. Which is a lot of work, but not especially difficult, actually, I think, because like when I wanted to make a film about the Dutch Jews in Israel, I went to Egon Olij Holland, which is the Dutch association, and there are so many heritage centers of the different groups that when you go to a heritage center, there are always very nice people there, and you can ask them questions, and they will help you. And of course, there are also a lot of people from the Middle East, Jews from the Middle East that came to Israel. I mean, the population doubled in 2 or 3 years after the creation. So with these people, so there are a lot of them. So it's not difficult to find them, but the difficulty, of course, is to find exactly the right people and that can sort of help you tell a story. And that is, I was helped a lot by the heritage centers. So the Aden Heritage Center in Tel Aviv, in Or Yehuda, and well, the Babylonian Heritage Center, Jewry Heritage Center in Or Yehuda. The Rehovot, there is one. There were many, and so they could, and of course the Egyptian also in Tel Aviv. Levana Zamir, who helped me, who is in the film actually.
Yes, and who's here tonight
Is she here?
in
Oh, that's
our
interesting.
meeting? Yes.
I'll see if
I
I
can't
can
see it, but well, never mind.
find her.
So I've been helped by many people who gave me and also there's a Libyan one in Oyhudas also. So
Have you been there?
That's right. Yes.
so it wasn't that difficult, but it was quite some work, of course, to arrange. But it
Yes,
wasn't
of
very
course.
difficult.
Yes.
Yeah.
Before we go on, I just want to say, yes, some people have mentioned other films that deal with this subject. There's Starting Over, which was about Egyptian Jews. There's from the TGM to the TGV about Tunisian Jews, and there's also another film about Libyan Jews. But there are very few that actually cover all the Jews from Arab countries, and we know there were over 800,000 of them. You have to read, and they are now over 50% of the population of Israel.
Yes.
So,
yes. And in this film, I mean, it's also not absolutely not complete. Of course, it's just a few stories, but they are from different countries, from different regions, and different. I mean, also from poor to middle class to bourgeois. I mean, there's a bit of everything.
So
I think all different backgrounds, and I think that's also very important. And also, I mean, there's such a huge difference, for instance, between Liliana Serror, who is from Libya, from Tripoli, from a middle-class family, or for instance, Yehuda Amir, who came from Sanaa and literally sort of was transported from the Middle Ages into a modern world, which is something completely different. So there are many different, I think, stories in this film. And very different aspects also, but it's nowhere near complete. Of course, I don't have that. I don't even have that. Ambition either, because it's of course impossible. But it's just it just tells some stories.
Yes. You mentioned the Farhud, which was, of course, the two-day massacre of Jews in Iraq in 1941.
Yes.
I believe you do have two Iraqi interviewees in the film who actually talk about it, or certainly Eddie Moore talks about this. And can you possibly show us an extract?
Of course, yes. Actually, what I would like to do is show you a little fragment of Eddie's story. Yes. Who will talk about the Farhud, and it will sort of go into the story of Lily Shore.
Right.
They're both from Baghdad, but one, is a story from 1941, and the other one is a story from the 60s, 70s. So I think it's also interesting to see that, a city like Baghdad, which was, densely populated by Jews, 40% of the population was Jewish in 1940. And that's something people absolutely don't realize here, for instance, which is, I mean, it's a huge community. So I think it's an interesting bit to show these two fragments. I will share my screen again. Give me a minute, so I'll set it up for you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
There we go.
Thank you for all your suggestions for films to see.
Okay.
Okay, over to you. Great.
Also, so sometimes they kill somebody without any. I mean, you couldn't go
to see the picture.
You can't see it.
Plane.
No, can hear it but not see it.
Oh, sorry. Then something is going wrong. Excuse me. Then I'm probably sharing the wrong screen or something. Check.
Yeah, perfect.
Well, I'll just start here.
Also, both a newspaper in Arabic. They made their propaganda in this newspaper. They even translated the Mein Kampf of Hitler and published it in this newspaper also. So sometimes they kill somebody but without any, you couldn't go to the police and make to complain because they did nothing because of it. So the whole atmosphere was take care. Be aware. Don't do anything that can provoke somebody. Almost every day we found a body floating in the river, in the Tigris river. It was Jews, you know. It's they don't count the Jews then. They started doing some few things that we felt that something is going to happen before the exact day of the Farhud. The peak was when they started sign the homes of the Jews by digging their hands in a red color and put it on the gates of the people. They also put signs on the Muslim shops because they don't want them to harm the Muslim there. They wanted only to attack the Jews. So we knew that something is going to happen. The Farhud was in the evening of Chag HaShavuot. Chag HaShavuot means the eve of the Shavuot. Shavuot is a very special holiday for the Jews because it was the time when Moses spent about 40 days on Mount Sinai, and he get the 10 commandments from the God. And actually in this a special event, while Moses brought the stones, it was the creating of the Jewish people.
Growing up in Baghdad, as children, we were all the time aware of us being Jews and that we should never say that we are Jews, not to speak about that, and not to say the word Israel. But still, as children, we had a lot of trips. We used to go to the tomb of Ezekiel the prophet near Baghdad, where the Jews was taken 2,600 years ago to exile. So it was a pilgrimage for us, and we used to go every year. On the way, we would stop for a picnic by the banks of the Euphrates and then go to the ruins of Babylon. The turning point was actually in 1967. Until then, it was bearable. Of course, there were restrictions on the Jews. They could not have passports. They could not do many things that Muslims were free to do. But in 1967, the war between Israel and the Arab countries, the Six-Day War, took place. The Iraqi army with the other Arab armies, they were defeated, and the defeated army of Iraq came back, and the regime wanted to take revenge, and they started to take Jewish men to prison and accuse them of being spies. And then in 1968, the Ba'ath Party of Saddam Hussein started to be really cruel to the Jews. They took many, many people to prison. Many were tortured and murdered in prison. My father also was taken to prison, but he was released miraculously. And in 1969, 9 Jews were hanged in the public square Tahrir Square in Baghdad. They were accused of espionage. They were innocent. It was a very traumatic day and period for all the Jewish community.
So
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
of course, well, it speaks for
Yeah,
itself,
so-
I think.
Absolutely, yes. I was amazed to see the color footage you had of the hangings, because I'd never seen that before, actually, the hangings in 1969 in Tahrir Square in Baghdad. How did you manage to find that?
Well, actually, the archive material is it's a chapter on itself, because it's a lot of, it's very difficult to find, and also there's a lot of it. So there's many archives you have to sort of start browsing, and it's also very expensive to use, which I think is ridiculous. I mean, I understand that you have to pay for it, but it's actually, I think it's too expensive. And not so much the fact that you have to buy it to use it in your film, but then if you want to show it, you have to, you know, it dependent on where you want to show it. It's a bit excessive, I think. But anyway, there is a lot of archive, and this I found in the BBC archive, in the Pathé archive, and a lot of the footage you've now seen, also in the beginning, which was from Fez, from Morocco, is from also is Gaumont Pathé, which is from France, and I used a lot of material from the Joint as well, which they have a lot of material, and the Spielberg archives has also a lot of material. So especially on the exodus of the Jews from Yemen, there's a lot of material as well, which I will show a little bit later. But there's a lot of material there. So it's an ordeal. But actually, one thing which I thought was very moving, I think, is that at some point I found some material, because every country also has its own television archive. So Holland also has a television archive of Holland, you know, and you know, they have newsreels from the 60s.
Newsreel. Yeah.
So I browsed through the Dutch archive, and I found this program, which is called Here and Now, Hier en Nu in Dutch, and they filmed in Baghdad in 1969. So I just, you know, started watching everything, and I found, you know, a whole reportage about which was just filmed right after the killing on the hangings on the Tahrir Square. So there was interviews with people, you know, talking about it. It was horrifying, actually. But also there was a piece of material from the synagogue in Baghdad, which was from that period. And I sent it to Lily Shore of the Babylonian Heritage Jury, which you just saw in the film. And she recognized her grandfather on it, you know, and some other people. So it was amazing, actually. So I brought it to her, and it was really moving, I thought. And there was even another bit which is even more extreme, which I found also in an archive, which was French. I couldn't find the source, but it was in a Dutch archive, so I just took it out and I showed it to her. It was a French school in Baghdad, and she herself was in it, which was
How
crazy.
amazing.
But I only found this actually when the film was finished. I didn't put it in anymore because it's crazy, of course.
Oh, that is amazing. And we have Lily actually on the call tonight. I know she's here.
Yeah. Good. Yeah.
So yes, moving on. So the Jews go through this period of persecution, and there's often a lot of violence, isn't there? I mean, we saw the clip about the Farhud, which was actually 7 years before the creation of Israel in 1951. But around the time of the partition plan, there was a pogrom in Aden, wasn't there?
Oh yes,
and
yes.
You have Shimon.
Yes, Sasson.
Yes,
yes.
Sasson talking about his experience of that.
Yes, that is actually, yes, Shimon Sasson, who is from Aden, His story is also, I think, very, very moving and very interesting. But it's this typical thing, I think, that you see with a lot of, even from my own experience, even here in Holland, and then people talk. It was also with Shaul Nakash, who's from Aleppo, from Halab, from Syria, and they say, "Oh, life was okay, anti-Semitism. Yeah, well, I don't know, really. It was sort of normal. Life was normal." But then when you start to dig into it, you find all these sort of actually really horrifying examples. Actually, the way they had to hide and sort of be quiet, be sort of just be small, basically. And actually, Shimon was talking about this. Not even, I don't think, sometimes not even realizing how ridiculous, I mean, the situation was. And at some point, of course, with the 1947 plan, violence broke out in Aden, and he's talking about that. And there's an excerpt that I would like to show it. I'll share my screen again. I have to
Thank you.
open another file for that, which I will do now, and then I'll check exactly what the time code is.
Yeah. So
So
interesting that
a
people,
little.
yes, people sort of belittled their experience of
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, and that's possibly part of being a dhimmi, a second-class citizen in an Arab country.
Yes,
perhaps.
that is exactly the way also Rafa Israeli framed it. Like it's, this, and also Yorami from Asana, this second-class, third-class citizenship where you're always dependent and never know what's going to happen. But still, it's like a life that you're used to, and therefore maybe it's what it is. And then only when the atrocities start, it's of course another level. I'm going to share my screen again. It's very difficult to exactly start it at the right point, so
Don't worry about it.
okay, so I'll here we go. Yeah, let me know if it doesn't work.
Perfect.
איך אומרים, הסתגרו בבתים. למחרת בבוקר, זה היה בשלישי, הצבא הבריטי שלח חיילים ממוצא ערבי שנקראים APL לשמור כאילו על הרובע היהודי ולהרגיע. הערבים במקום להגן עלינו הכריזו עוצר, והיהודים לא ידעו מה זה עוצר בכלל. נתנו לערבים לשרוף את הבתים של היהודים בקצוות. התחילה הבריחה של היהודים מהקצוות להתכנס למרכז של הרחובות היהודים. אל הבית שלנו ברחו 5 משפחות, והם ירו על הבורחים, כי זה היה עוצר. כאילו היה להם רשות להרוג. בבית שלנו, איך אומרים, הייתה משפחה אחת שראתה שהצפוף אצלנו כבר בבית, רצתה לעבור מהבית שלנו לבית של קרוב משפחה בצד השני. ואז התחיל לדבר, עמדו מול החלון כדי לדבר שהם רוצים כאילו להגיע אליהם, שיפתחו להם את הדלת לקליטה. אני הייתי אז בגג, שמעתי יריעה. היה מין כזה בליטה של בטון בין הקומה הראשונה לבין הקומה השנייה. בקומה השנייה הייתה בחורה אחת בשם פנינה כהן. הכדור פגע בבטון, שינה כיוון ופגע ישר בראש של פנינה. הפנינה הזאת מת במקום, סחבו אותה מן החלון.
השכיבו אותה על הרצפה, דיממה, היה הרבה דם, אני ירדתי מהגג, הסתכלתי, כיסו אותה בסדין, צעקות אינסופיות היו בבית. אחי הגדול ממני השתולל, אני כבר לא ידעתי את מקומי בתוך הבית. ישבה 3-4 ימים, התחילה להסריח. אני זוכר שאבא שלי היה לו בושם, הוציא בקבוק בושם, שפך על הסדין שם. איך אומרים? בושם עם ריח התחיל לנדוף. ורק אחרי 4 ימים, 5 ימים, בא טנדר אחד, לקח אותה בשמיכה, כמו שק קמח ככה, זרק אותה לתוך, וזה אני מסתכל, זרק אותה, זה כבר העוצר נגמר, זרק אותה לתוך הטנדר, ושלחו אותה לקבר אחים. בפוגרום הזה נהרגו 87 יהודים, מאות נפצעו, הרבה חנויות נשרפו. הקהילה נשברה, חיי הקהילה כבר לא היו חיי קהילה. אני הייתי בכיתה השביעית של בית ספר היהודי בעדן. בתי הספר כבר לא היה בית ספר. נפשי לא מצא מנוח. התחלתי להשתולל לרחוב, אבא שלי כבר לא ידע מה לעשות איתי. הסתובבתי ברחוב. אחי הבוגר, שהוא כבר גמר לי.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll just stop it there.
Oh,
He's
yeah,
obviously
yeah.
still so emotional about this whole event so many years later. It's unbelievable.
Yes, well, I can imagine actually. It is horrifying, and it's what he also said to me. It's really, it just was, traumatic, and that is what actually all the people told me that I've spoken to, that these moments, that were so frightening, like Shimon is talking about this period right after the partition plan, where the violence broke out, and then you have 1967, where so much violence broke out. Of course, after the creation of the state, and then after, all the time when there were tensions in Israel, the violence broke out. Actually, it's what you see now as well. But yes, of course, it's traumatic, and so it just all comes back.
And as you say, history is repeating itself with these events. What
I'm afraid
just
so,
now
yes.
on the 7th of October, it all seems eerily familiar somehow.
Well, yes, it's horrifying, I think, and of course there are now hardly any Jews in the Middle Eastern countries and North Africa, but I think it would have been deadly if they would have been there now. I mean, it wouldn't have been any different, I don't think. There's no reason for me to think it would have been different, let's put it that way.
So all your
I'll just think about
interviewees, or most of them, talk about how they left. And
Yes.
some of the stories are absolutely amazing, like how the Jew from Syria managed to leave through Lebanon, and it was all,
Yes,
walking
fantastic story
through
as well.
forests and
Yeah.
all, we haven't got time to show everything, obviously, but
No, actually, I think I'm actually, every story is sort of beginning, the history of what it was, and then there is a story of, becoming unbearable and having to leave, the fleeing, and there's arriving in Israel, which in most of the cases was a very positive experience.
But can we just look at one story of departure? Say the one from Libya, that your lady from Libya, a very sophisticated lady called Liliana.
Yeah. I think yes, of course.
Yes.
I can.
She left in 1967, didn't she?
Yes, after there was a pogrom in Tripoli then, and she left. Her family, they had to leave because it became far too dangerous to stay in Tripoli. And she explains, well, life for her was, I mean, she's from a middle class family, and life for her was relatively easy, she said, because it was she had an education, she could easily find a job, and there, of course, Libya, there was a lot of Italian, I mean, it's very Italian heritage colony it was, so it had heritage. And but after 1967 they really had to leave, and she's talking about this story that finally they go to the airport, and they are not allowed to take very many things. So her mother starts stashing things in several places, and for one thing, she stashes the money into a jar filled with peppers. So hoping that it will not be found. And she puts in another suitcase, she puts other things. Well, I'll show you the fragment, and then it speaks for itself. I'll have to look for it quickly where it is.
Yeah, I think she stashes away the silver in the suitcase.
Exactly, yeah.
So she's taking a big risk here, isn't she?
A very big risk.
Customs officials are gonna, if they find all this, she would be in big trouble.
Let me see. Here it is. It's a bit difficult to get to. Here we are. Okay. I'll share my screen again.
And a bag with clothes. That's it. No jewelry, no silver, nothing. So, because we had money, and I used to work for a company, so I brought this money and I said to my mother, "Here, take." There was some money, and then she took a jar of pepper, hot pepper. She took the money, put them in a nylon, and in this jar. And then she said, "Listen, if we're going away, we don't know if we're coming back or not. I'm taking all the silver and all the jewelry." My father went crazy. "Are you crazy? If they seize us, they can kill us. They can send us to prison. Our life is better." I said, "Don't worry. Don't look. Don't look what I'm doing." So she put all this gold and the silver in one suitcase, and on top, clothes. She took the jar of hot pepper, put them in another suitcase. We arrived at the airport. There were thousands of people, most of them Jews. And my heart was like, I was like crazy, because I knew what my mother did. And my father was all the time white like the wall, white. For the women, there were police women searching on us. Searching, putting the hands inside, looking if we had things on a, like nothing, in a very small, tiny room, and they did whatever they wanted. For a man, a policeman, looking, searching, seeing if he hides anything on him. And then on the table, the policewoman said, "Okay, put the suitcase on the table." My mother took the suitcase with all the jewelry and the silvers and put it on the table. And she had a poker face. So she looks at my mother, didn't touch the suitcase, looks at the suitcase, looks at my mother, and she said, "I want that suitcase." She opens the suitcase and says, "What is this?" And my mother opens the jar, takes the hands of the policewoman, and the policeman started pulling her hand, and my mother taking the hand and wanting to put her in the jar. And they said, don't you see, it's pepper. We, like you, we cannot eat any food without hot pepper. And that was pulling, and my mother was pulling back, and that was pulling. And I said to my mother, okay, leave her. But she wanted to show like nothing is. I said, okay, put inside, go.
Okay. Yeah.
Amazing story.
Yeah, it's amazing, but it's full of actually it's full of amazing stories. It is actually the one from Yehuda Amir, which I think is also very special. He's from Sanaa, and he's literally from a different boy coming from Sanaa, and there's no time to show it all, but he says like I made a trip of 8 hours and I traveled 800 years, and I thought it was such a beautiful expression. Actually,
Can we see that little bit? Because of course the last bit of your film is about how these Jews adapted to Israel, or what their feelings were when they arrived in Israel.
Yes, I can, but then maybe it's an idea to show a little bit of the story of Shaul Nakash, who is from Aleppo.
Right.
And he, his story is also, it's before the creation of the state. He left Aleppo with his mother in 1941, I think, or 1942. Well, I'm not completely sure. And he is talking about, they have had this crazy journey, which is in the film, but then he describes, arriving, they go through the mountains, and his mother is carrying a baby, and the baby is starting to cry, and she has to give the baby to the little daughter, and well, it's this big saga. And in the end, they arrive at the kibbutz, and I think I'll show you this little bit of getting there, because for him completely everything changes, and I think it's a very interesting part. So I'll share my screen again. I have to find it quickly. Give me a little minute. 5031.
Yeah, and of course that story of that Liliana told about not being able to take anything out, and some Jews did manage to smuggle bits and pieces out, but mostly they were not allowed to leave with more than 20 pounds in their pockets.
Exactly, and it's with all these people. I mean, they had to leave everything. I mean, they traveled. I mean, all their possessions, everything they left behind. Of course, in the case of Liliana, they took something. They hid it in
they managed to take something.
But it's completely. Sorry, let me check where I am. 5031. Here we are. Okay.
So this is the Syrian Jew,
yes,
Shaul Nakash.
Here we are.
Aleppo.
I'll share my screen again. Sorry, it takes some time because I have to exactly find the right spot.
Don't worry, it's fine.
Share, here we go.
כבר היה לקראת בוקר, שיקנו אותנו בלול, שהסבו אותו, שמו מזרונים, הסבו אותו למנוחה. כנראה שלא ישנו הרבה, זה כבר היה סוף הלילה, וקמנו לעומת התקופה הגשומה שאנחנו זוכרים מביירות, פתאום פה שמש זורחת, הכל בהיר, אנשים מחייכים, אווירה כזאת של שחרור, של חופש, זה, אני לא יודע, דבר בלתי רגיל. ראינו עצי הדר בפרי, עץ הדר בפריו, זה דבר כל כך יפה, ושם ראינו פרי הבוסר וכתפנו, וחברי הקיבוץ באו ואמרו לאמא שלי שחבל לקטוף, אבל ההשכמה הזאת הייתה משהו אחר לגמרי, זה היה מעבר יוצא מן הכלל, במהירות, מאווירת תחוסה, בכלל האווירת תחוסה, מה שלא יהיה, אנחנו מצטמצמים, אנחנו, משהו מעיק שם, אנחנו לא בולטים, לא מעיזים להרים את הכל, לא מעיזים להתבלט. פה מיד, זאת אומרת, אני לא יודע, האוויר, האור, אני לא יודע מה, מיד השתחררנו אני השתחררתי לגמרי, האווירה הייתה
קשה לתאר את זה. אני זוכר את ההתרוממות הרוח הזאת, עם האור כזה, עם השמש החזקה, האור הבוהק כזה. זה חופש גמור, זה חופש מדהים, לעומת האווירה הקשה שהייתה בחלב. הבדל עצום. אני דיברתי עברית של תפילה, עברית שהיא מצחיקה, שאתה אתה מדבר לילדים בשפה כזאת, הם לא מבינים במקרה הטוב, או צוחקים עליך במקרה הרע. אז שם הייתה ילדה, אני לא יודע מאיפה היא ומאיפה היא, והיא רצה וקשקשה בעברית בגילי. ואני דיברתי איתה, והצליחה לדובב אותי בעברית המתוחכמת, הספרותית שהייתה לי. קודם כל, מהר מאוד אני נקלטתי בחברת הילדים. אני זוכר שלקחו אותי לרקוד עם חברת הילדים, וילדה נתנה לי יד, זה היה בשבילי כמעט שלא נגעתי בילדה בחלב. פה ילדה בוחרת אותי מתוך הילדים, יש ריקודי מעגל כאלה. ההרגשה הייתה מצוינת.
After 6
Oh, that was a lovely story, isn't it?
Yes, I think especially when he says that he was never touched by a girl before.
Yes, yes, of course.
Really moving.
Yeah,
yes.
fabulous.
Yeah.
So, do you have a little clip of Yehuda Amir, the Yemenite Jew arriving in Israel? Shall we have that?
Yes. And I'll show the part where he's talking about leaving on, with the airplanes, which of course he had never seen an airplane, which is also interesting. So let me find it again for you.
Yes.
This is the thing isn't going right. Let's go to another one.
I know that one.
Almost there.
I have one more after this. And then
Here we are. Okay. So this is, I will share it. It starts almost immediately, but it's very difficult to exactly pinpoint it. So here we go.
don't worry.
Dad, did you forget about extermination camps? What happened in Germany? Do you want us to go to this camp and not knowing what will it be? Let's go out.
אחרי שהגיע הרישיון, צעדנו, או שנסענו במשאית בעצם, עד לשדה התעופה, ושם ראינו, אני בפעם הראשונה ראיתי מטוסים, אלה היו הסקיימאסטר שהג'וינט שלחה לנו כדי להעלות אותנו לארץ ישראל. עלינו למטוס, שפינו ממנו את כל הכיסאות כדי לרווח את המקום, להכניס כמה שיותר אנשים. והמטוס המריא וטס במשך 8 שעות. ראיתי מהחלון, ראיתי את הים, ים סוף, את הים התיכון, ראיתי את האדמה למטה. לא פחדתי, לא יודע, היה לי ביטחון. הדבר הכי גדול פה זה המעבר מתימן לחיי המאה ה-20. המעבר הזה לקח לנו 8 שעות. במשך 8 שעות טיסה עברנו 800 שנה. מימי הביניים למאה ה-20. זהו מעבר עצום. עולם אחר, עולם חדש. פתאום ראינו יהודים. ראינו יהודים בשדה התעופה, ולא ידענו שהם יהודים. למה? כי לא היה להם פאות, לא היה להם כיפות. אז אמרתי לאבא שלי, תראה את הנוצרים האלה, כמה שהם יפים. אלה נוצרים. לא ידעתי שהם יהודים. זה המעבר, כן? מעולם לעולם. עולם אחר, עולם ישן לעולם חדש.
All right. Yes.
So I think we have one last extract, which is Levana.
I have many more.
Yes, I know that, but just for this Zoom.
Yes.
And this is Levana Zamir's story of arriving in Israel and finding herself in a tent camp.
Yes, I thought it was an important story about, well, it's all important, but this for arriving in Israel, because in that sense, Levana's story is different from the other stories, because her arrival in Israel wasn't that fancy at all. So it was very hard, and there's a lot of, to say about that. But let me show just what she, in her own words, what she is talking about and what she experienced arriving in Israel when she came.
She came from a wealthy family in Egypt.
Yes, and she was, of course, a completely different background again, because she was from a bourgeois family with her father was a businessman, and her mother was a very very fierce lady, and it's completely different from Yehuda's story, of course, who is from Sana, and which was very poor, or from Shaul, who was also very poor. So it's there. There's all these nuances, I would say, but I'll show it to you. 24/17.
And just to say, Lily was planning to show this film at the Babylonian Heritage Center, and of course she's not able to because of the war.
No, it's a pity. I was hoping to go to Israel in November. Okay, let's start here. I can start at many points, but let's start here.
Was him deciding about everything, you know. But we were lucky with this kind of woman, my mother, and she was glad to go to Eretz Israel. Well, what we got there was a tent, a big one, of course, we are 9 persons. But in the middle of the winter, in the middle of the night, this tent blew up and all the rain on us, on our luggage. Could you imagine this for my parents? Later, much later, when we found her diary, she wrote, "I am crying in my pillows every night." Excuse me.
All right. Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Also, of course, very emotional. I can imagine.
Very emotional. Absolutely. Yes. Yes. And actually, Levana's story is amazing because it sort of shows how women were empowered by this whole experience.
Exactly. I think also, well, I don't know if it's I think women tend to have maybe a little more sort of, what is the word? I know, intuition for these kind of things. But because in Levana's story, it's obvious that her mother was the one instigating, really the Aliyah, basically. So what I understood from her, that her father more wanted to stay in Marseille because he already found a job. They were in France, and first from Egypt to France, and then from Marseille to Israel. And but it was her mother who decided, no, we have to go. I want to go to a country that is all Jewish, because I don't want my children to be mocked, because they were mocked at it already there in Marseille. They were called dirty Jew. So she started. So her mother was the one who decided to leave.
Yes. Absolutely, but it's a happy ending for all your interviewees, really.
Yes, in
They
a
all
way,
seem to be happily
yes.
settled or
Yes,
resettled.
the other day someone asked me, was anyone, did they want to go back or so, at some point? But I don't think there's anybody that sort of lightest. Of course, there is this feeling of, I think, nostalgia sometimes. For instance, when you had a nice life like Levana in Cairo in the beginning, I mean, before 1948, it was completely different in Egypt. So yeah, for her, it's, I think, even more different than, for instance, for Rafa Israeli, who from the beginning had the feeling that or experienced a lot of horror, as he put it.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
there's difference there, but so I don't think there's any. Well, I wouldn't. I'm not sure, but I don't think there's anybody that would want to go back. No, they're all glad to be in Israel.
Absolutely. So I think several people have asked,
Yes.
where can they see this film? And
Yes, I understand
yes,
that, the question. So I don't, because they all follow your channel or your
yes,
association, I suppose. So what I will do, I will try to, because the film now is, because it's a film for television, so there's all these things with rights.
Yes.
That you cannot just share it like I would want to share it now, basically. When you are in Holland, you can just see it on Dutch TV. So the film is on Dutch TV, but of course it's not with English subtitles, so it will be difficult to follow for people that speak only English. But you can see it on Dutch TV, and when you Google
so
it.
Is there like an equivalent of iPlayer for Dutch TV that you can just put your film in the search box on the Dutch?
Well, when you just go to the, in Holland you have the NPO, and when you just go to Google and you say, it's called in Dutch, Een Vergeten Uittocht, and you'll find it, you can just watch it. But only, of course, with Dutch subtitles. But now it's being offered, to channels like they do that.
Yes.
But I will actually discuss with my, with my bosses, to see if it's not possible to just, put it on a,
which channel is it on?
Vimeo channel or something, which I already do with a password, but just put it open on the Vimeo channel, because there's so many people that I would want to show, to show it to.
Which channel was it on in Holland?
Sorry,
it was on just the national TV, so it was on.
I can see NPO 1, 2, and 3.
Yes, it's on NPO 1.
NPO 1.
Yes, and then when you search Een Vergeten Uittocht, you will just find it. But I'm not sure if you can watch Dutch TV from an English IP address. But of course, you can use a VPN or something to watch it. But
okay, so that's and what reaction have you had from Dutch people who've watched it?
Well, that's always very strange when you're a TV maker, because you don't really run into people that have seen your film that much. But when it happens, they all are very impressed actually with it, and especially struck by the fact that they didn't know anything about this history, but absolutely nothing most of the time. So I think that is that is what happened to me the most. But it's not as if I run into people all the time that have seen the film, and sometimes they they send me an email or something, and they just let me know that they really like the film. And I've been on the radio interviewed about the film as well, and of course then you get some reactions, but it's not as if it's always very strange making a film for TV, because it just goes out, people see it, but there's no contact. Like now it's far more interesting, I think, because you just talk to people. Yeah.
Yes.
What's the name in Dutch again? Looking for it.
It's called Een Vergeten Uittocht. I can put it in the chat.
Yes, could you put it in the chat?
I mean,
Wonderful.
if I can actually get in from England, that's what I'm trying now.
With Vivian,
I'll put it in.
To watch in Dutch. Thank you. I think you've got it down there. No, that absolutely.
I'll look in the chat. I'll get.
Just looking at the questions here. Of course, people are reminded that the 7th of October was another Farhud. The 7th of October is stirring memories amongst Jews who lived in Arab countries.
Of course.
There was a mention of Alaska Airlines, which of course organized the airlift from Yemen. And actually, they were the same people who organized the airlift from Iraq, but I think they were known as Iraqi Airways then. So,
I don't know, actually. I don't know about that. But
yeah.
it's very possible. The Alaska Airways and the Iraqi, I really don't know. What is interesting, I think, of course, is the escape route from Iraq at the time to Iran via Tehran. It's unimaginable now, of course, but at the time,
yes,
Iran was a place
that's
you
right.
flee
And
to.
of course, Lily, I don't suppose Lily told you her story of how she escaped from Iraq. But of course, the way to do it was the route was over the border into Iran.
Yes.
Which seems incredible nowadays.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that is
Yeah.
very amazing, actually.
Yeah. So that's absolutely amazing. I don't know if anyone else has got any questions. Lots of compliments for you. I think people really appreciated seeing extracts from the film. And we're really looking forward to seeing the full version, if you can manage to
yes,
get it on BBC or...
Yes, I hope it. Well, that would be, of course, fantastic if that is happening, because then it's even easier. But I will, as soon as I have arranged something, I will let you know, and you can sort of, let your...
Absolutely.
Right, I'm going to take over the share screen now, because I'll show everyone something.
This is Lawrence, our technical assistant, who absolutely invaluable. What do we do without him?
I see Levana now in the top of my screen.
Here we are, being played.
Here we are. So this is the Dutch version of the film.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, you can play it. I can't put the sound on because my machine has to be silent, otherwise it echoes with Lynn. But it's certainly working in London.
Yes, it's on there.
Great.
Okay, that's absolutely lovely.
Right, so I'll stop sharing. Otherwise, we'll be here for the next hour. Everyone watches it.
Yes, it's actually 2 hours in all, isn't it? Because it's two separate.
Yes, it's two parts of 56 minutes.
Right.
The beginning is, in both the parts, it's the introduction. It's exactly the same. So if you see the first film or the second film, the order doesn't really matter, because they're all different stories. There's no sort of sequentiality. I don't know if that's a word, but it doesn't matter if you see the first one first.
Right. And Sarah Ansbacher from the Aden Museum said that maybe after the war she'd love to show it at the Aden Museum. So you've got the Babylonian Heritage Museum and the Aden Museum will both want to show it, and maybe Levana's group would like to show it too.
Oh, I'd love. I think
shout out to Sarah, because it's thanks to Sarah that we actually met.
Exactly.
And this whole thing started. Well, our association started.
Yes. No, true. We met of course, in Tel Aviv. Sarah introduced us to each other.
That's right. So thank you for joining us, Sarah. Okay, so I think that probably ends the formal part of this meeting.
Yes.
I'd just like to thank you so much, Marcel. That was absolutely riveting, and I think we all enjoyed seeing the film. Thank you.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes,
because I think it's so important, especially because Levana, and I know Levana is on and Lily is on.
Should I put Levana and Lily and get them to speak if they're still here?
Yes.
Very nice.
I think making a film like this, what it maybe is most important is that you get the trust from the people you interview. They give you your trust to make a story out of it. And for me,
ask Levana to unmute.
It's so important. Sorry, it's so important for me that they are okay with the film. It's like they give you their story, and basically it's out of their hands, and you start doing something with it. So I'm so grateful that they gave me that trust. So that is actually something, because I see them now. Thank you very much.
Levana?
Well, Marcel, thank you so much for what you did. As I already asked you to do, is to send, if you if you agree, to send your movies, your films to Beta Tfutzot. You know,
Yes.
it's called, now they call it the ANO, Museum of
I
the
know.
Jewish People.
Yeah.
It would be very, very important.
Yes.
Perhaps we could, after the war, perhaps we could even have a special projection and a special event with the film, with the two of them for 2 hours. We'll have a big event. In between, we could have, you know, a buffet, something else, or singers, a half-day conference with your films. Do you
I'd
agree?
be very happy. I'd be very happy.
I know the
come
Director
immediately.
General, Tadmor, I know him. I could speak with him about that,
Yes.
but he will have to, he would like to see the films. You see?
Oh, okay. Well, I can send them now. I mean, there's no problem for me. Whenever, I mean, I can send, because actually arranging a private viewing is always possible, because there's no, I mean, nobody will start checking my private viewings. So
That's good. Sounds like a plan, anyway.
yes, so in that sense, it will be possible anyway. So like I also said to Lily, because we were already planning something.
Yes, Lily.
Yes,
Lily.
of course, I would be happy to do that and come. And it's always possible to show it in a setting like that, because it's theatrical and nobody. I mean, there's just invited people. It's like a closed thing, so it's not broadcasted or anything.
So Lily, were you surprised by the film? What do you think of it?
First of all, I would like to thank you, Lynn and Lawrence, for interviewing Marcel, and thank you, Marcel, for your amazing film. Yes, he did an amazing job, and he managed to bring all the facts and all the moving things, and of course with the other people who were interviewed, and mostly I want to thank him for finding this footage of the synagogue, because the synagogue in Baghdad, in which the Dutch TV crew wanted to check what is happening to the Jewish community after the hangings. And I remember I used to live across the street from the synagogue. I was 12 years old, and I remembered that it was the Dutch crew, Dutch TV. So I told Marcel, and he just found it in the archive. And then a surprise, he found the footage of myself at school. Amazing, because what's amazing is the expression on the faces of the children. We children, we were 12 years old. No one smiled, no one moved his lips to this direction. And well, I have a lot to say. Just another thing, we were planning, or we scheduled already with the 21st of November. It was, you know, in marking of the 30th of November. So we scheduled the 21st of November, but I scheduled with Levana and with Liliana and with the others, Edimo, and with the others, the Yemenites. But apparently it will not work just now. But we will we'll plan to
we'll come back.
Film. Yeah. In another opportunity, of course, and we plan to give the two parts of the film, as Levana described, to have a conference, or you know, some break in the middle, But we will do that after the war, inshallah.
Inshallah, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Anyway, and it's also an idea for Harif, obviously. Everybody, please do come to our own commemoration on the 30th of November, which is still going ahead. It's actually in person at JW3 in London, but you can follow it online. You just have to book your place, and all the details have been sent or will soon be sent again to everyone on the mailing list.
And I just have one last request. Harif would like an option to do the first screening in London.
Okay, I promise it.
Yeah, well, but if the BBC gets it first, then we'll let them.
Live screening rather than TV screening.
I think it's also a bit of a pity that I mean the film is there. I just want to show it to everybody. You know, it's ridiculous in a way. So I will try. I will do all my best to arrange something that I can just maybe put a link on Harif or something that you can just.
Yeah, that would be lovely.
It would be
Thank
nice
you.
to do something in person, because then you can talk to many of the attendees. Will be people who've gone through the same experience, and
I'll be glad to come. Of course. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's something for the future. So I think we will.
Can I say something?
Yes, sure. Of course
you said
can.
something about all of a sudden my mother was the one to decide about where we are going to live.
Yeah,
I can tell you as a feminist, okay, today I don't have to be, but 30 years ago I was very strongly feminist. Yes, for the young women. And in every war, the women all of a sudden took the power.
Yes.
It happened always, because power, you know, in all languages, you don't give power. On ne donne pas le pouvoir, on prend le pouvoir. You take power. So the women took the power because the men couldn't.
Yes, I think there's also a little more decisiveness in the women at such a point. I mean, like what you explained about your mother, I mean, she was so decisive about this goal and this aim, whereas, you know, I also have the feeling also because I studied a lot of war stories in Holland, of course, women tend to give up things easier sometimes, you know, that they just, you know, they are very intuitive in that sense, I think.
But it was the first time I heard my mother telling my father no. The first time, because in Egypt, it was always my father deciding about everything. So it was the first time. And I heard them because we were together in the refugee camp in Marseille. And I heard them arguing. In Egypt, I never heard them arguing. Never.
They nearly caused a divorce, Levana.
What?
They've nearly divorced.
And that's why my mother wanted me always to work. At 16 years old, she told me, "You will not be the slave of the house. You go out." And you know, each one of us is the result of our mothers. It's the same with you, Lynn, with you, Michelle, and with you, Vivian. I am sure.
Thank you.
What to do? But the men, they want wars. And you know, it's very difficult for us now.
Yes, of course.
3 times a day, I have to go to the shelter, ups and downs, 3 floors.
Yes, of course. Oh my goodness. You take care, Levana.
Yes, but okay,
and all of you.
We are okay.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Marcel, once again. Thank you, Levana. Thank you
this
all.
to us now in this difficult time. Thank you for this hour together.
Thank you.
Really.
Thank you.
Toda Marcel, toda Lynn, toda Lawrence. Shalom,
Thank you. Shalom, Lekulam.
From New York. Shalom, Michelle.
If anyone wants to say anything, I think Lawrence, will you unmute everyone?
Everything. Okay.
Yeah, so this
right.
has become a sort of tradition at the end of each Zoom.
Perfect.
It's a
Yeah.
free-for-all.
I
Anyone
have a
can
couple
say
of people
anything.
who've just called themselves iPhones, so I'm going to have to go and remove them first.
The security comes first. Of
It
course.
does. Look, we've had it once. Someone tried
Yeah,
to do
we
it.
have to be particularly careful at this time, actually, because there are
So,
hackers around.
iPhone 3, I'm afraid you haven't given your name. I'm going to remove you from the meeting. If you want to come back in the meeting with a name, that's absolutely fine. I'll just put you in the waiting room, change your name, and you can come into the meeting.
Okay. All right then. Okay. Can we unmute everyone?
I see one waving.
Wonder Woman,
Yeah.
the same thing. So Wonder
Oh,
Woman.
is there Wonder Woman?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that's Michelle.
Talking of female feminism and all that, we've got Wonder Woman here already.
Right, okay. Now everyone can now unmute themselves, but what I would like to do is if you can raise your hand, and the first person with their hand raised that I can see is Joseph Samuels. So Joseph, do you want to go first?
Thank you very much, Marcel, for your devotion and your film. Appreciate it very much. I was 10 years old at the time of the Farhud, and I have experienced the trauma that was revived with the October 7 to what happened to me. And just finished an article. I hope to publish it here, send it to different newspapers. And I wanted to know if you'd like, I can send you my book I wrote, Beyond the Rivers of Babylon, Marcel.
Of course, I would be, yes, it's very kind. I would really like to read your book.
Then, Lynn, can you give me the
Well,
address?
good luck with that.
Okay, and now I'm going to, the next person to speak is our Harif's very own Wonder Woman, Michelle.
Hi.
Yeah, muted. Yeah.
I don't hear you.
No?
We can't hear you, Michelle.
No?
Your microphone, you're not muted, but you just can't hear you.
Maybe her microphone is muted. Is that possible?
No, if microphone's not muted on my screen, it says it's working.
She has to push a button on her screen.
No, but I can see on my control panel that she is unmuted. So it's not a question of muting, it's her microphone somehow isn't working properly.
No, I can't hear you. Oh no, what a shame.
Terrible.
Do you want to try and dial in on your iPhone or something and do the volume on the iPhone? We can't hear you, Michelle.
Yeah, I don't know what's happened there. But shall we go
okay,
to...
okay, the next one with the hand up is Deborah. So Deborah, do you want to unmute yourself?
Yes, hello. I missed the first part of the presentation, but I was wondering about the photograph that you used for the film poster of the family carrying the Torah through the desert. Do you know?
Oh yes, now I know the answer to that. Yes,
Yes.
I think it's the Arbib family. I've actually got an item on Point of No Return, our news blog, about this. I can send it to you if you email me at info@harif.org. I can send you the link to the
Is it
story.
in your archives? Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's in our news archive.
I can pull that up. Yeah,
It's
it's
quite
so
an,
biblical. It's an incredible image. I've seen it before. Yeah.
Yes, it's an iconic image, actually.
Iconic image, and the
Iconic.
grandson actually, identified the picture.
Where is? Do you know where that Torah is today?
I don't know where that Torah is today. I don't know if anyone would know.
Okay.
In one of the synagogues in Israel, presumably.
Okay, next is Gail. Gail.
Thank you.
Hi, Lynn.
Hello, lovely to see you.
Hello.
Hi, Gail from Washington. You see, we really are international.
My comment is we're always speaking to ourselves. We're always sharing to ourselves. My big peeve here in Washington is we have to get it to the outside community. Here in Washington, you don't see it in the media. They talk about refugees and how Egypt doesn't want the Gazans to be misplaced and not be able to return.
we have to reach out and talk to the outside world, to churches. You know, it's, you know, interesting to us, but they need to hear. My suggestion is we do a lot with the embassies here in Washington. I think the the Dutch embassy should be contacted, and we've done this before. They should screen the film. It goes out to the Dutch community, and then we forward it to all kinds of people. It may even make it in the Post or the Washington papers. We really should contact the embassies in the countries that we live. You know, the Dutch embassy in wherever you are in Canada, and have them request to see the film. You'd be surprised how many films they'll say, sure, we can screen it. That's a great idea. So we have to reach out. I don't know how. I mean, I can do the embassy in Washington if you're willing, and then they do the rights. But we have to speak outside. So
completely agree. It's a fantastic suggestion. I mean, if you want to contact the Dutch embassy in Washington, fantastic. It would be great.
Okay, and what I would do, and if you want to do, is contact the cultural attaché or the diplomacy, head of public diplomacy. Do you know Avram Rosenberg?
No.
Anyway, he's in Holland. He's at the Spanish-Portuguese synagogue, the librarian in the Eitz Chaim library.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
Okay.
Then if I interject, Gail, there's American Jewish Committee, AJC.
Right. And I know people there, and sometimes they just don't move. And sometimes they broadcasted within the American community. It needs to be in the outside, you know.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Yeah.
So, okay, so we'll talk later online, and I'll get you in touch with the embassy. I'll make a call if you're willing.
Of course, I'm willing. Yeah, for me, I completely agree with you. The reason why I make a film like this is to show it. I mean, it's not to put it in the cupboard. And of course, it's like you say. I'm very happy that I can show it here. I'm very happy that I can show it. I've shown it in several Jewish communities, and I think in that sense.
Yeah.
Sorry.
See, Jewish communities, we show.
Yes, yeah. I agree. Yeah. But also there it has an important function, I think.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah, but I agree with you. It has to go out. I completely agree. So that's also why I make it for Dutch TV, and it has been.
Yeah. And you have tried to get it on the BBC, or you are trying.
I'm still working on it.
Yes, still working on it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Holly.
Hi, Marcel. This is Holly. I want to thank you so much for your presentation. It was marvelous. Thank you for letting us see some of your films. I hope that they will get to the Jewish film festivals in the United States, lots of big cities and even the small cities now. I wouldn't believe it. They got Jewish film festivals.
Yeah,
and I want to tell you, I was surprised too to see color footage. Oh my God, where do you see color footage in 1969? So, thank you again, Lavana. If you're still here with us, we'll someday successfully be able to merge with Marcel and get your program together. God willing, we get this war over with.
Yes.
Today, if I may be allowed to say so, November 7th, 1967, my late father, Max Rosenberg, died at age 56 of lung cancer, 1967. So may his memory be for a blessing that we get this war over with. And of course, as always, Lynn and Lawrence, thank you so much. Everybody stay well.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Holly. Thank you. Okay, Michelle, have you got sound? No?
I've never known Michelle be quiet. This is a new experience.
It's all right. You were on just a second.
Okay. So Marcel, thank you very much. I'm really looking forward to seeing the whole film. First of all, for Harif, I go into schools, and at the moment I'm showing the Forgotten Refugees. There's a 15-minute version, and then afterwards we have another 15 minutes afterwards of discussion. And I wondered whether you were going to be doing a short version as well that we can use in school.
A short version.
Yes. Yeah, because there's no way. How long is it? How long is the film?
2 hours.
2 hours.
Well, it's two films, and every film is an hour. So if you can show one, or you can show two, or you could even show half. I mean, there's lots of ways you can do it, but you can if you show one film, it's an hour.
I know. The trouble is we don't have that time. When I go into schools, it's like for sixth formers, and you've got 40 minutes basically, and it takes 10 minutes for everybody to get settled. So it's like The Forgotten Refugees, which is an hour film, but there's a 15-minute version of it. So the film looks lovely, and I'd really like to be showing it. And so I just wondered whether you had plans to do a 15-minute version.
Michelle,
no, I don't have. It would be very difficult. It would be a lot of work actually. But what would be possible is that you, because now it's edited in such a way that you have in one film you have 4 people, but you could also, of course, make one portrait of one person. That's what you could do. So, and then that's this one film of one person. For instance, take the story of Levana. That whole story, when you sort of put it together as one portrait, it would take about 15 minutes, 13 minutes.
Well, what you could do, Michelle, is take extracts like Marcel did tonight of some of the key points, because I think we had a little bit of about 5 speakers and they were all excellent. And you could do 2 or 3 of those with some key things. Because I think what's nice was both the people speaking and the graphics. I think they make it an ideal medium for schools and far superior to the existing offerings.
I agree it's superior, but it's just the time frame. You know, you've got all of these kids coming in with 3 pizzas. They want, you know, they're all sort of, the delivery arrives for pizzas, and very often
but all you have to do is have your extracts ready. You have more than one copy of the thing open in your thing. And one is at 16 minutes and 3 seconds, and play that for 2 minutes, and another at 41 minutes and 9
pizzas in advance.
You're done.
Yeah, well, we'll discuss it afterwards, what we can do and how we can incorporate it. But one of the things, Marcel, that I really want to stress, can I get Marcel on the screen? Because I'm on my phone now, and I can see you.
He's on our computer screen.
If you go on the main screen, you can see the 4 spotlights.
Okay. Okay, I need to fiddle about because I'm not used to using this on the phone. Anyway, participants. Okay. So basically what I want to say as well, Marcel, is that do everything you can to get this into the English-speaking world, for TV, for public broadcast, because none of the other films have been able to do this. Remember, Baghdad got onto Netflix, which is brilliant. And so if you can get this film onto Netflix, onto Amazon Prime, onto the BBC, because this story, we struggle, you know, our Harif team and everybody else, we worked so hard to get this story out there, and films make such a difference. And if people, when they're flicking through their Netflix menus, you know, I'd do anything to help, because I really feel so strongly that this is not out in the mainstream media.
Yes, I wish I.
A bit frozen.
It has frozen.
Yeah. Sorry, Marcel is frozen.
Maybe he'll unfreeze.
Yeah.
Well, so long as Marcel got my message, hopefully, even if his screen is frozen.
Yeah, sorry, Marcel.
Contrary to what everybody thinks, it's not like I control the media. You know?
Marcel, do you have any plans to come to London?
Sorry, Lawrence.
Do you have any plans to come to London?
Not specifically now, but I will. Like, I mean, it's not so far. I mean, you can hop on.
When you come, it would be great for you to meet up with the Harif team, and perhaps we'll try and do an in-person meeting when you come.
Yeah.
Because I'll be happy, definitely. So yes, of course, I can. We could do that anyway. I mean, it's there's a train now going from Rotterdam, so it's
it's not a million miles away.
No.
Okay, that's great. All right. Well, I think it's probably time to say goodnight, because especially since it's 10:15 in Holland.
That's all right. I'm happy. I'm really. Thank you for having me.
No, once again, thank you, and thank you for the magnificent
Thank you so much.
job. Thank you for making the film and for all the work that went into it. And I wish you success with it. And we hope that it'll go to as many people as possible.
Yeah,
I will do. I will do
coffee with you and Sarah.
In Tel Aviv. Yeah. All right then.
Okay.
So
Thank
you,
you.
all of you, for
Thank
coming.
you.
And just to remind you once again about our 30th of November commemoration, details on the website, and you'll be getting them in the next email. So hope to see you again soon.
Thank you,
Thank
Lynn.
you.
Bye,
Thank you. And
Bye-bye,
you,
everyone.
Marcel.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Stay well.